This is the remix of the remix. This is ChillPoint. You know it's going to be good if it's a remix of a remix.
And you know what? It's a remix we've made and crafted with love just for the viewers, whether they're on Twitch, whether they're on YouTube, whether they're on Spotify, even though this does not go on to Spotify, but also for them too. And I have to do this, I guess, because I'm making fun of Adam for taking sides and switching them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're listening to this on Spotify, how?
Let us know. Let us know how, because I need to know how then at that point.
It's what I like with video games. It's not like there's remix, redux, re-release, director's cut,
Deluxe,
game of the year edition.
Oh yeah, game of the year editions. Got to get that goatee in.
Yeah, there's lots of different things. What was the whatever the Pokemon Cafe is the
that's remix.
That is a remix.
Yeah, because it's Pokemon Cafe Mix was the first what they launched it under, and I guess they're redoing some stuff in it, so they're calling it Pokemon Cafe Remix. It looked the same to me from what they showed of their gameplay, and I'm not re-downloading it. I already passed through that game, and I'm not doing it again.
Calling it remix when the original was called Mix is legit. Like, that's, you're not even saying that it's like remixing it. You're just saying that this is like a redo of the original. Anyway.
I mean, the way you play that game, you put your finger on the screen, you kind of just mix stuff around to try and get stuff to touch as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's like swirling your finger in coffee.
Yeah, I played a little bit of it. I kind of dug the mechanics of it, actually. It's sort of like a puzzle game, but it actually has like a sort of mechanical component to it. It's not just like click on these two things. You have to actually it has a dexterity component to it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. And they can't make me play it again. No matter how many times I can change the outfits on the new Pokemon.
Pokemon don't have outfits.
They do in Cafe Mix, Paul. They wear a little hat and they have a little apron, unless they are too big for the apron, and then sometimes they only have the hat. Sometimes they get a little scarf. It's generally red, but now I think I can make them green, and that counts as a different outfit.
I hope that's the remix part.
They're cute.
Our developers have been working night and day for the past 6 months, and we can now announce green scarves. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we can have them write an article, "The Pokemon with the Green Scarf," which is Shopaholic's movie reference that I doubt anyone understands. So we should just move on.
Okay. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to ChillPoint. Just Heather and I today. Beige is off on secret Beige errands. Nobody knows where he may be.
Yep, he definitely did not get kicked out for stealing my stick of House of Lies and putting it on a different program. Nope. He's off doing secret things, and he'll be allowed to come back next week unless he has more secret things to do. We won't know until then.
He stole your House of Lies?
You can't steal a House of Lies. Partially because it's not portable. They're very heavy lies, Paul. Not meant for taking.
They weigh down your soul.
A lot, yes. It's why I haven't moved in 2 years.
So, today it's just Heather and I, but we are going to be talking no less about the games. It is video game news time, talking about the news of the week, as well as what we talked about in the CheckPoint yesterday. Mm-hmm, and the let's just get into it here. The first story is the occasional the times when we get to actually talk about magic on ChillPoint, on CheckPoint, in ChillPoint. You know, we look, we all play not, or a lot of us play not a small amount of magic, and magic. I know that I feel like there's a bit of a meme that magic content does tend to like infect other streams on Loading Ready Run sometimes. Uh, that's not really intentional. It's just, what we like.
I mean, I saw a picture of a roadmap, and all I could think about was the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then I
There's,
realized those were not. That was not those movies.
there have been a lot of comparisons to the Marvel Cinematic Universe roadmap.
It's all on a black background. I mean, how dare?
So yeah, so the magic news, and the reason why we're talking about it on Checkpoint is because in addition to the other sets that they announced in 2022, they also announced a couple of special edition secret layer packs, which are these sort of limited edition, limited print run packs of, they're usually 3 to 6 cards with fancy new artwork and occasionally actually new mechanics and stuff, but usually it's just like a new special edition
Yeah.
artwork
If
stuff.
you need more of a visual of what Paul has described, then you should go down to youtube.com/LRMTG and you can check out the Cracker Packs, because Graham has definitely opened up some secret layers of weird things.
Yeah, and as Graham said, they're effectively DLC, like fancy DLC costumes,
Cosmetics, yeah.
you could say. Anyway, they're doing some special ones. They're doing some for Fortnite and Street Fighter, and this is something that has been, now we didn't know about the Fortnite one or the Street Fighter one, but this is something that has been like in the works. They've been laying the groundwork for this for a while, in the sense that they've been trying, and I know a lot of people are not like fans of this move. I myself I'm kind of not a big fan of this idea of, but they've been big on this idea of like opening up the Magic universe to
Right, yeah.
other properties. So I feel like it started with like joke cards where they made like Transformers in silver border and like did them as a special edition thing for HasCon.
They did the thing. They did that thing that you have like that one friend who's like, this is just a joke. It's just funny. Unless you think it's really cool. You think it's cool, right? It's not. That was never a joke. That was a genius plan of mine this entire time.
I feel like not a lot of like people liked the people, and they did like a set of My Little Pony cards.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember hearing about those.
But like those were all silver border, which in the case of Magic, what that means is that they're not playable in the game. They're just basically just
they're for fun.
Silver border cards are for fun. They've also they've released like promotional cards for like Christmas and stuff. I think I have some over here too.
Like a little Christmas card, like it actually opens up and it's like
no, but it'll just be like a Magic card, but they'll be like what was
little Santa hats on everyone.
They'll be like Seasons Beatings was one. It was like a card
okay.
like there'll be cards that have like funny mechanics.
Flavor names. Okay.
Fruitcake Golem, Yule Ooze was, yeah. So they're just silly cards.
All right.
But then they started releasing, so I believe the first one that they released was set for The Walking Dead. So in a set called Ikoria, Lair of Monsters, which was all about big monsters, they did some promotional cards, some alternate art versions of cards. Like they made a Godzilla that was
Mm-hmm.
the same as like there was a giant lizard monster in the game that was like whatever
Okay.
somebody giant lizard monster, but then they made a version of him that was Godzilla. But mechanically, it was the same as that card. So everyone was
Sure.
like, sure, it's just like a fun promotional thing. Then they did a thing with The Walking Dead, where they actually released cards that were like 5 people from The Walking Dead that were actually mechanically unique, which people were not super happy about.
I mean, they could have just made a bunch of zombie tokens.
With
They didn't. They
exactly, yeah.
didn't. They didn't need to do that.
And I think people being upset about it have a point in that, theoretically you could only get those cards through the secret layer thing, and the whole point of the secret layers is that they're very limited run, so they're worth it, theoretically worth a bunch. Now it didn't become that relevant with the Walking Dead ones, because while the cards were mechanically unique, they weren't that good. I think there was one card that was like, oh yeah, there's Rick was actually like semi-relevant, but so anyway, they've been kind of doing this thing where they've been pushing this more and more as like, hey, we can do more different stuff within them. Like Magic doesn't have to be isolated from everything else, and we're part of Hasbro, and Hasbro owns a ton of IPs.
Yeah,
We can mix and
it's
match
so
things,
yeah,
and
very
also we
easy
can
for them
talk to
to do
other
that.
people.
Oh, they're doing everything that people are doing. It's that whole like Marvel thing and the whole Fortnite thing, which now they're just getting
Yeah, so
with
then
Fortnite.
I don't think we've actually seen any of the Fortnite cards yet. There's just sort of like a splash page,
Mm.
but I don't think they're going to be mechanically unique. They'll just be reprints with fancy pictures and stuff. And I think somebody's take on it I heard was it's like this is really more of like Magic and Fortnite rather than Fortnite and Magic, just in the sense that like Fortnite, there's like Batman, there was like a Batman comic book with him going to Fortnite in it. There was all this. It's just like Fortnite is just
Yeah,
everywhere. We'll just attach to anything it can.
yeah, I feel like at this point you could make a trivia game that's just like, does Fortnite have this property in their game or not? And it would be impossible because you just be like, yes,
Yeah,
yes, because I don't. Just how many times on this show do we end up being like, hey, Fortnite did a new thing, really? Again? Ah, darn those rascally Fortniters.
Yeah,
and
this or that
need for stuff.
IP in Fortnite or not. Yeah, so I mean, so what this story is, that was what this story is about, is this whole thing. Although actually that takes us into the thing that Graham talked about at the end of the last session, which was a new hot new IP that's being added into Fortnite. Is a thing about the Martin Luther King speech and the circumstances surrounding it, and which is, I think, as Graham said, is the thing that it's like well-intentioned, seemingly well-intentioned, but tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to see it like. You kind of get what they're going for. And they've done, like, they did a whole thing about Black Lives Matter a while ago, which was sort of done in a similar way with where they had, movie presentations, which is like an in-game movie that you can watch. But yeah, there's the problems with like the mismatch of Fortnite, which is a game in which it's cartoony, but you kill people, you shoot people. That's the point of the game.
Yeah. I mean, this was in the creative mode, which is slightly different than just the main game.
Yeah,
if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, theoretically, as far as I know, you aren't going to get like ganked from behind while you're watching
Yeah, that would be
the
weird.
I have a dream speech, which, by the way, interestingly enough, is kind of a big get for Epic. Um, Martin Luther King's estate family is actually quite fairly protective of the likeness and
I
the
mean, I imagine you have
the
to be.
full extent of the recordings of that of the speech,
Hmm.
to the extent that there's a couple of movies that have come out recently that that wanted to use it and weren't actually given the permission to use it. So the fact that Epic did get permission to use this is an interesting thing. Presumably involved a dump truck full of money.
I mean, just
Oh, they
just because you're protective of your IP doesn't mean that that for the things that you do allow it for, you don't get paid for it. I mean, it's one of those weird things where it's like you look at it and you're like, that seems slightly awkward, but again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. In a bubble, in a big bubble of hey, here's a thing we're doing, isn't that cool? Yeah, is pretty cool. In a slightly bigger bubble where you start adding in the other elements, you're like slightly awkward. Uh, and then once you start getting into what the company is that did it and whether or not you agree with their actions and other things they've done in the past, then you have to start ascribing motives. And it's like, is this really out of the goodness of someone's heart? Well, maybe. There's a lot of people who work at the company, so maybe a few of them definitely, and maybe a few of them definitely not.
But it's like, I mean, at a certain point though, like it doesn't necessarily matter uh, what the reasoning behind it is. It is a thing. It is. I think it's like fundamentally a positive thing to have as a thing in the game. Maybe it affects some people, maybe not. But I think they deserve some credit for putting the effort in to do it. I don't think they deserve as much credit as they were hoping to get. Like I don't think
Well,
it's gonna go as well as they were hoping, but
mhm.
they did put
I
a
mean,
bunch of
guys,
effort into making this thing. Like they didn't have to do that. So I
no,
think
and
I think they deserve something for that. But yeah, I don't think this is going to buy them as much goodwill as they were maybe hoping it would.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like, is this a move to just get goodwill? Does it feel performative? Does that really matter in the end, in a sense like this? Because at least it is placing something that people should be aware of in a place where a lot of people hang out and the younger generation and whatnot as well. I'm not the good place. We don't have a point system where we can arbitrarily say, ah, yes, they are definitely doing good or not. But in the end, I'm like, it's probably not an evil thing. It's probably decently good for something, for
The
someone. It might, in fact, really help somebody.
analogy I saw, I don't know if it was in the comments or on our YouTube channel or on one of the articles talking about it, but it was saying it's like, having like a wake in a Chuck E. Cheese. It's just it's just like not a terrible idea of a thing to do, maybe just not the venue for it.
Yeah, I just when I look at people who start to say things like, "Oh, well, that's virtue signaling," or "This is whatever," and like, yeah, in most aspects of our lives, we would like people to think good of us. So maybe your motives are pushed behind by that, but is that always a bad thing that your motive is pushed by that if you get a result that can be a good thing, or that you do a good thing for someone else even if your motives weren't right? That's all.
Yep. Anyway, um, hopefully it won't turn into a
It probably won't turn into anything.
an actively negative thing. We'll see how it goes.
I think it's just going to be a
Maybe it will
thing.
be a story on CheckPoint next week. I
Oh
think
man,
I kind of hope not. Like we've done the story about it being a thing that exists, right? And that's funny that it exists. Period. Like it's legitimately a silly thing. And as Graham said in the outro, we would have done like a normal CheckPoint story on it if it hadn't like been released the morning of
Yeah, we hadn't.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So like, it's definitely something that we would do a CheckPoint story on because it just is an odd thing to talk about.
Here's the thing. CheckPoint happens, and it's like, at least it's probably funny. It might not be bad, but sometimes we talk about the bad thing really heavily, and I'm like, does that have to be a story?
Yeah,
Does that have to be? But it's not like, oh, the Last Week Tonight show where you're like, oh no, they mentioned something I know. What terrible thing did they do? Like,
yeah, CheckPoint's not always bad. It's just odd. You know, we go for news of the bizarre. Anyway, what I'm saying is that we've talked about it. You know, Graham talked about it on the outro now about the fact that it exists. So if it's going to become news again that's worthy of actually including in CheckPoint, it'll probably be for a bad reason. So I kind of
Yeah.
hope it isn't going to be news again.
yeah. Yeah.
Paul was busy writing his retraction after the Thanos snafu. What are you talking about? Tell me I'm wrong.
Right.
Tell me I'm wrong. That was the one thing that Thanos like was all about is everybody gets killed equally.
Have you seen the What If series, Paul?
No.
Oh, okay.
What is
you
there
should watch episode. You should watch
what if
episode
Thanos
2.
was racist? What's
No. No. But he shows up in episode 2. I'm not gonna get into it. Don't worry. I'm not gonna like talk spoilers about the show. But he shows up in episode 2, and he's not the guy who did the thing. And I don't know. I think maybe you'd enjoy that.
Thanos, yeah. I haven't read a ton of the comics, but from what I understand, Thanos in the comics is a weird guy. I mean, he's weird in the thing, but he's, he gets up to some odd stuff.
He's just the computer program that realized people were evil and then took it to the conclusion you don't want. That's all. That's all that happened.
Anyway, let's talk about comic. AKA the Magic Koopa from, I believe, introduced in Yoshi's Island. And super. I don't know. I feel like despite being an antagonist, Kamek has a lot of fans because I mean he's an antagonist, but he's also like kind of put upon, right? Because his job is usually to like watch Bowser Jr. That's usually like how he gets stuck, and so like the story that Peter's talking about here. So Kamek is going to be in Mario Kart Tour with a broom with wheels on it, which seems wrong, but anyway. And people are very excited about this because he was going to be he was in one of the early prototypes of Mario Kart 64. And apparently somebody in the comments was saying that in Mario Kart 8, I think, they also... when people looked at some of the source code files, they saw he was going to be in Mario Kart 8 at one point too.
Interesting.
But it's and so when Beej was talking about the like we all wish we were a comic that we could just curl up on a couch with our phones, pretend to be him, relax and stuff. I was looking for a picture. Comic is kind of an intense guy. Like all the pictures of him are like, because in the things his job is to like keep track of Bowser Jr. and that's like a full-time job. And so he's kind of high strung, and so there aren't really any pictures of him like chilling that are like at least that are like official art. In unofficial art, I'm sure you could get pictures of him doing all sorts of things. But and so I did find a picture, or I did get, there's a stuffed, like a plush version of Kamek, and so I got that, and I just put him onto like a big comfy couch. Which, what I like is that photo of the couch that I got
Uh-huh.
was from like a Craigslist thing that was like free to a good home, large comfortable couch. I was like,
Uh,
perfect. That's what I want.
well, I mean, I get Beja's point in the fact that Kamek is like, it's got a big robe and he's cozy and all these things, but as you said, all the pictures of Kamek is angry and whatnot. And I really think when you think about it, Kamek is this Magic Koopa who managed to get a promotion, like just get that step up,
Right.
but that promotion was a nanny job, and so now they got to work really hard at this really just difficult position, and I don't know if there is actually another uh
It's
promotion above that they can acquire, but they got that promotion.
it's that like store manager thing where you get like a ton more responsibility and then like an extra 50 cents an hour of actual
Yeah,
pay. You're like, why am I doing this?
yeah.
Uh so anyway, uh you're gonna be able to play this comic. Sadly, it's in Mario Kart Tour, which is the one for mobile, and
Hmm.
that most people don't like that much. But
It's I
that's, I
I
mean,
I will latch onto a mobile game for a little while, generally,
I think
like a
it's
couple of weeks at
is
least. And that one I played for a half hour and gave up on. I just did. I don't know. Racing a car with your hands on your phone was not a thing for me.
yeah.
That's before you get into the weird microtransaction section.
Uh, Final Fantasy 14, folks. I hear that um, I hear that it is a game that a lot of people are playing these days,
Yeah,
and
that's what I keep getting told.
especially in North America. Like so, it's important to note here that this is so the story is that one of the main, I guess, I think it was the primary data center in North America called Ether, uh, is full. And that's an important to note. We're not talking the server is full. The data center is full. All the servers are full. Uh, and I so but there are other North American servers that you can move to.
Hmm.
Um, or that you can join up onto and stuff. Although some of those are also full. And you're like, why don't they just add more servers to the data center? Uh, One, I mean, there might not be actually like room in the data center, or two, with current semiconductor shortages and stuff, apparently it's actually hard to just even get the stuff to fill it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's in as interesting. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 is fascinating to look at as a game, especially in the sort of games journalism adjacent industry that we're in. Because we report on a lot of MMOs, and we reported on Final Fantasy 14, the whole way along. And I mean, I've talked about this before, that Final Fantasy 14 is kind of unique in that it stumbled right out of the gate. It really tanked out of the gate.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you're an MMO, like that's death. Like you're done. And there's and
And
we've and
we've seen MMOs go down for less,
we've talked about that before. There's MMOs that shut down after 3 months because they didn't get enough people in the first month. And it's like,
or in the
well,
beta,
that's it.
or in whatever they're doing. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Square was willing to put the serious money behind it and basically scrapped a large chunk of the game, completely changed a lot of the development team, and for a while we were doing. I remember we had a running gag on CheckPoint, or at least there's a running thing where every month or so, Square would give everybody a free month and apologize for the previous month
Oh no.
because their servers were going so badly. Like their servers were in the game was so broken that they were just giving away free months. They weren't
Yeah.
charging anybody for the game for the longest time.
I mean, my
I hear
understanding
they're
is they
not charging
just
for it now.
smashed
But
it. They just smashed the whole thing and started it again.
yeah, and so then they did the Realm Reborn, and through a lot of effort, a ton of money, and marketing, and blah 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 blah. They actually pushed through and became quite successful, and are somehow still successful, and saw that graph. That I mean, I wouldn't say it was it's like a you know a giant increase recently, but it's been on a very steady upward trend
Mm-hmm.
during a time when, for instance, WoW was not on an upward trend. So it's pretty, fair play to them. But of course, with with that becomes the problem of now you have too many people and you don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, I did see Surge tweeted over the last couple weeks, he decided to download the game and tried to get on it, and it took him forever to download it or something because of a weird thing that they do with Steam, I guess, and then took him hours to be able to get even in to the game in order to just start. So, you can talk about you Final Fantasy 14 fans can talk about your free 60 level game forever that you try to tempt people with, but clearly you might want to wait until there's space.
It's true. It was a bad first
You
impression.
might not want to invite your friends to your pizza party and have them wait outside for 2 days not being able to get in. That's all.
Uh, and then we have a story about this hardware revision of the PlayStation 5, which is one of those stories that there is barely anything to this
Not a
story,
story
right?
here.
I mean,
It's not a story.
the main thing that's odd about the main thing that even makes this sort of relevant as a story is that it is odd that a system that nobody can actually get their hands on because it's so scarce is going through a hardware revision at this point.
Well, and it's not even been out for a year.
Yeah. But yes, it was also an opportunity for Beej to make lots of jokes or lots of quotes.
Lies.
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 And I enjoyed making all those quotes and then putting the thing at the end to make it very clear. And I feel like as I read the story, for the first time when I was doing the graphics, I probably went through the thought process that many viewers did. Like, the best screw you've ever had. Because so the big thing is that there's a different screw that attaches the bottom stand to the bottom of the PS5 that is apparently easier to screw in.
Yep.
And so the best screw you've ever had, you can kind of imagine maybe being a bad translation of something.
Yeah, or a headline.
Yeah.
Or something being used. The you can just use your hands to screw it on or whatever.
Yeah.
Seemed like a fairly plausible quote. The strap-on one.
Yeah, and then handed to Beach did an excellent job of making less and less plausible quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the part where he just says that they're all fake isn't supposed to be a quote, but I was like, I'm gonna put that in as a quote.
No, I like it as a quote. It's very direct in
I,
in how many lies there are in the story. It's
as a side note, uh, I feel like more so than any other checkpoint host, Graham or Kathleen, uh, I have had the most instances of putting a picture of Beige up into the corner. Like, usually the host, the person saying the story, doesn't need to be also in the corner graphic because they're right there.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it
You're saying
becomes
host, right?
surprising, like, it happens surprisingly often that I want to put a picture of Beige into the corner because of,
I
to basically ensure that everybody knows that this is all his fault.
I would say as well, since you had Beach doing some readings and writings, that we've definitely put Ian up in that corner more often than
It's true.
ever before.
It's true. Ian, there's been, I feel like at least 3 times
I feel like I can name at least three instances in which
where,
not only did we put a picture of Ian up, but you texted him asking for him to
yeah,
submit a
that
photo.
at like 10 a.m. on Thursday, it'd be like, hey, Ian, could I get a picture of you looking sad and looking at your flight stick or whatever it was? I forget what
Right?
the,
Yeah, yeah. There was a flight stick one. There's something to do with a Gundam.
right, there's the like exploding, oh, right, it was that like Ian was gonna like, or right, it was that, right. It was something to do with Beige badmouth Gundam, and then Ian blew up Princess Auto.
Yes, yes, yes. I do
Which
remember that one.
the exploding Princess Auto GIF I was quite proud of.
Hmm.
Uh, and then our final story is the continuing saga.
Train wreck.
Yeah, we had a week or two off break, but there's been an update on the uh, Activizy Blizzy story. Actiblision, whatever you want to
Act,
call it.
assholes. I'm sorry, ass blizz. I'm sorry,
Ass,
Activision Blizzard.
yeah, ass blizz. Act black. Act black. Anyway, there's the complaint that the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which by the way, with this and also the riot story, the like logo of the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. I never like I had to search up a high quality version. Like, it was hard to find a high quality version of their logo, like
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that.
back like a month ago or month and a half ago when I first started doing that. And I was just like, man, I'm glad I have that logo image because I've been just able to use
Just
it over and
reusing
over
it
again.
over
Yeah,
and over
yeah.
again. Yeah.
They're just, I feel like it's not like their crest is not a very good logo. If they're going to be in the news so much, they need to come up with better branding. Anyway, so they've expanded they've changed the wording in some of the stuff in their lawsuit. They've expanded it from employees to, they've changed it from employees to workers to take into account people who are on contract and on temporary
Yeah.
basis,
And
which
that's a very important change.
is a big deal because especially when we're talking about these kind of situations where it's like people in a position of power, abusing that power. Contract workers, of course, are the most vulnerable to that, and so they're the
And there's
most.
going to be a lot of them in a video game thing. Like QA testing alone is generally almost all non-employees.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then there's also this very weird. I would call it shenanigans. I would definitely call shenanigans on
It's a
these
very
moves.
nice way to put it.
Where so they did this. They made a big show of being like, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're absolutely, completely taken aback by all this terrible stuff that was going on. So we're going to get to the bottom of it. In order to get to the bottom of it, we've hired an outside firm in order to, make sure that it's a third-party, impartial group that's going to investigate us, find out all the bad stuff.
Yep.
And, of course, we talked about that Wilmer Hale, that third-party firm,
Yep. Known for union
has
busting.
various very bad connotations. To the extent that even in this, official... in this official document from the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, the fact that they hired Wilmer Hale is itself a red flag. They mentioned that as known, and so then they're like, okay, so if you're having any problems, if you have any complaints about your your work environment or people acting inappropriately or anything, it's really important for us. It's really important to make sure that we investigate all of this stuff as best we can. So come on, tell us about, tell the Wilmer Hale about it, and we'll make sure that you're heard and listened to.
Yeah, don't worry, said the fox to the chicken. Just enter this mysterious building and tell them your complaints. Nothing bad will happen.
And then, so the problem then is that then, of course, the Department of Fair Employment and Labor and Housing comes over and is like, hey, we're doing an investigation into all the terrible things you're doing. We want the records of the people. We want, if people have been telling you that you're doing bad things, then we want to have those records. So, and you're legally required to give us those records. And they go, well, funny story. It turns out Wilmer Hale is a law firm. And that means that, weirdly enough, when these people were telling it, were saying all the bad things that were telling the company all these bad things, they were talking to an attorney. And so that means that all this information is actually covered under attorney-client privilege. Oops.
Which I don't think is true. But I mean, good job trying, I suppose.
And then they also have, so it's basically that, yeah. So, and then there's also a whole bunch, there's a bunch of information. There's stuff about that they got people to sign, to settle or sign NDAs that are very restrictive, and also as part of the NDA, saying basically part of this thing that they're signing says, that Wilmer Hale is acting on my behalf as my attorney in this and stuff. There's, yeah. So, people in the saying that I'm a lawyer and that's not how it works. It's possible that I misconstrued the argument slightly for the sake of amusement. You can read the documents. It's pretty well laid out in there. But whatever the case, there's definitely shenanigans going on. There's these, and they're getting people to sign NDAs and things.
Yeah, and allegedly they shredded a bunch of documents and won't share the documents that they want. I really like the thing of, don't worry, we gave you the things that we think you need. Because I'm don't worry. That's the thing you want to hear from the group who probably doesn't want you to read things.
Yeah, the stuff we shredded is not relevant to this thing.
No, that was just some arts and crafts people did last week, and we didn't like them very much, so we shredded them in a new artistic attempt. Don't worry about it.
It's funny to me that I thought shredded, they shredded evidence, was being used in the sense of like was sort of used in a colloquial way. But it's in the document that's saying like accusing them of deleting emails and shredding evidence. Like it just seems to me that like surely all of this information is digital at this point. So it's not like for some reason I'm just imagining them like taking all the documents, printing them, and then shredding them.
I've been watching a lot of weird sitcom stuff. So my imagery is just like somebody picks up the computer and throws it in a paper shredder, and
Right.
it breaks, and then they just like whack it with a baseball bat because they're like, haha, now I've gotten all the documents.
Like in was it Zoolander, where it's like, oh, it's in the computer. Brilliant. But
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of companies actually still do print out and keep hard files of a number of things because they do have to give them to other people or
I worked for a
departments.
company where for a while at least I finally got them to stop doing this. But when I first worked there, one of my jobs was printing out all the emails and putting them in a bind and like filing them in binders because they didn't trust the like digital system.
Yeah. Oh, that's not that hard to picture. Oh no.
All right.
What was our coming up?
Oh, the coming up was Oculus. This game for Oculus Quest VR that turns an area. I wouldn't say like your room because you need like a large area. They were suggesting like a tennis court or I don't know, some sort of, or like a garage or some sort of large empty area.
That's quite a large empty area you do need,
I think the minimum is like 10 meters squared. Like we're talking a pretty large area. But
okay,
you could find like people, there's places that you can get.
Oh yeah, sure.
Or like a gym or something. But anyway, you get the area and then it basically turns it into a laser tag arena with like walls and things that you can duck behind and different stuff, and it's synchronized. Your view and the other person and other people's view is synchronized, so like you can see them, in your VR setup, and you can see all the walls and stuff, and they can see you obviously and stuff. So it's not so. And theoretically, the environment is empty except for the two people or all the people. So you're not going to be like running into things. And like the wall, it knows where the walls are and stuff. It seems like a super neat idea.
I don't think I could do it. The couple things we've done in VR for like Rhythm Cafe generally don't require a ton of like
space.
Space. It only requires like a little square because you're mostly just doing arm movements for a lot of those games, and anything that I've played that requires me to do more than like 2 steps to the side really freaks me out knowing that I'm wearing a helmet. Well, I don't think I could do a thing with 10 meters of free space. I think I would just...
I mean, the big trick with this is Oculus Quest VR, which is a wireless thing. Like it's all enclosed in the one thing. So it works better in that aspect. Also, Beach didn't mention it in the story just because it didn't work for timing, but the game is actually the game is called Space Pirate Training Simulator or something.
Okay.
And this is Space Pirate Training Arena is the like laser tag thing.
Yeah, my brain is just like, I'm going to take 2 steps to the side, and because I can't see anything, someone will have put something there, or a cat will have walked in, or something bad is going to happen. I know that I'm not in a real environment and I can't actually see, and I'm going to my shoelaces are going to come untied, and I'm going to find out in the worst way possible.
I saw a thing the other day that was just a clip of or a chunk of a Twitch stream of a guy playing in VR and did the thing where he forgot to switch it to the gameplay view. And so it's just him playing the game for like an hour because he couldn't see the chat telling him that nobody could see what he was playing.
You caught that old stream of Ian when we went away to PAX.
Oh right, yeah.
He did that. We made fun of him in the chat because we were watching. We were
Ah,
we went to see what he was doing because we were all at dinner and we all just were like, dude, it's been 40 minutes.
yeah. I'm like the little bit of VR stuff I've done has been neat, but like I haven't seen. I have to say that like I haven't seen like anything that I would really consider to be like a killer app or like a real like most of the things I've seen in VR I would consider like toys, which is
Yeah.
not to say they're not fun to play with, but they're not what I would consider to be like a real like game that you could like sink your teeth into and
Mm-hmm.
really get into. And I think that's partially just the adoption isn't there, and also a lot of people don't want to spend a ton of time in VR. Like it's just makes people
Mm-hmm.
you get headache and dizzy and stuff. But the stuff I have played with like the job simulator was super fun.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah. I've played a little bit of that one. It's been neat. I mean, my biggest game that I get to play when we do VR is going to booth screen and turning off the chroma key because I know someone will maybe do something with that to Ian, and
mm.
then I'll do that for like maybe 2 minutes and then I'll put it back. And it's a bit of a game because you got to make sure you can kind of get closer to the keyboard without getting whacked because he can't see you.
The I liked job simulator was great because you could have chat in the VR world on like a little floating.
Oh, nice.
There's like a little floating screen that you could take around with you, so you could have chat like there that you could like talk. Also, because it was like a cooking thing, I could also like put chat in the microwave, which was fun.
Sometimes chat needs a little timeout, you know. And a microwave's very convenient for that because it's got a timer on it.
Unfortunately, the game didn't actually like do anything when you did. Like
Aw.
you couldn't cook a meal made of chat window, but
Uh,
all right, let's talk about some other stories
okay.
that we didn't talk about in the thing. Starting with Electronic Arts, who continues to completely fail to be the evil guys.
You
We
mean they
talked,
did something good again? What?
yeah, we talked about that last week. That it's like, man, EA like apologized for doing a thing last week, and this week they have uh, opened up. They've granted developers access to 5 of their patents related to accessibility. So something that people have talked about, and we might have mentioned on the stream before, is Apex Legends has this really neat ping system, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically it's able that helps with people either with uh, visual or auditory issues, where that's very good in terms of helping people locate things. And a lot of people I think who don't actually have any disabilities use it too. Um, but oh hey, Beach is in chat.
I know, right? He could technically join us on the show. I know he's done his secret beach chores. Um, so
Uh,
that's up to him.
but so anyway, there's this super neat. So Apex Legend is known to have this quite robust system, ping system. It's called, and Electronic Arts has actually has opened that up so that, and shown the information behind it and how it actually works, so that other developers can implement it in their system, which is super neat.
Yeah.
And yeah, the big thing, the one of the great things with the ping system, it's like allows you to like point out things and do stuff without actually being in like voice chat, which people don't want to do often.
Hey, you don't direct the door coming in.
Daddy's home.
Ew. No. Don't make me push you away.
Oh hey,
Hi.
it's a beach.
I didn't know you could switch so fast.
He came in here ages ago, and I told him to go away,
Yeah.
and he listened.
Yeah, because I was like, well, if you already know what you're going to do, then I was kind of like, why should I interrupt? But then I didn't know how you're going to treat the screw story, so I was like, well, I'll just trust that they handled it in a very
We treated
mature
it
and
very well, and
We
yes.
treated it with the gravitas that it was owed. How
the
about that?
most upright respect that PS5 should have.
Anyway, you're talking about EA.
Yeah. So that was most of the extent of the story is that they've actually pledged to do this with other patents that so their technology that they develop that is related to accessibility, they've pledged to open up and allow other developers access to. So
And also keep updating their code on GitHub too. They're not
Yeah.
just
Oh,
going to be
really?
like, here it all is, and then like run away. It's like, no, we're going to keep,
Yeah.
as we update our own code, we're going to share it with you.
I would love to see more, especially larger companies, give out stuff like this so that people can learn from it or make stuff better.
It's funny because we were talking last night about Metroidvanias, because that's all I talk about.
Yeah.
And
all
I
I was saying.
was saying about how one that I was playing currently, I'm like, I just don't like the movement model they've come up with. It's just really loosey goosey. I really wish it was more like Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight has has a really good movement model. And I'm like, I wonder if you were an indie, if you could just go to another indie and say, we really like what you did, your Game of the Year award-winning, amazing game that sold millions of copies. We really like the movement model from that. Can we trade notes? Can we chat? Can we just license your movement model from you? And like, and maybe there's some of that sharing going on within indies, but just the idea of like a AAA company being like, we have things to share. And that, like, what if that was happening more in the industry, to be like, we made some cool stuff and it's really...
I mean, it might be happening for all we know. I'm pretty sure indies talk.
Yeah.
Just not the game that you were playing.
It's true.
So there's there's a pair of stories that are sort of related about Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Oh.
Can
we go to the moon yet?
No, but you can go racing. There's going to be an update to add an 8-player racing mode based on the Still National Championship air race. You'll be able to take control of World War II era fighters capable of speeds up to 500 miles an hour, and you're going to be doing like an
air race,
a plane race around like
is it like a standard course, like the ones where they're like, you have a pole at one end and a pole at the other, and you have to get to the other end and go around the pole and come back, kind of?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Not the kind of aeronautics display where it's like you get to do this, you have to turn around and flip and do
oh
this.
man, yeah, we should do air shows in this.
Well,
game.
what they're saying is part of this update actually is they're building a whole new, or they've developed a whole new multiplayer system to better track and more precisely track the position of the players relative to each other,
right?
So that you can do, you can do like Blue Angel type maneuver, like you can
that's
you can
cool.
do like synchronized maneuvers and stuff.
Okay,
Holy jeez.
all right. I'll forgive them for not letting us go to the moon yet, but they should work on that.
Now, odd aspect of this is so the planes in Microsoft Flight Simulator are real planes, right? Like they are, not only are they actual like planes that are actually were built, but they're planes that are currently in use, and their specs are, they are as close as possible to what they actually operate like in real. And that requires the cooperation of various plane manufacturing companies, Airbus, Boeing, blah, blah, blah. Part of the agreements, the contracts that Microsoft Flight Simulator has with these companies is they can't show their planes being damaged. So what that means is apparently what'll happen if in the race when players collide with each other, they just disappear.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna. They just go right through each other because they're invincible.
Oh, that's
They just
good.
go-
That's good too.
Or they just do like rigid like bonk and then like go off in opposite directions.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
like little bumper cars in the air.
Or maybe like merge into a larger plane with like a robot arm.
I mean, technically, if they transform together and they become some sort of Megazord, that's not damaging anything. That's just becoming something new and interesting
Yeah.
and
As
fun. And it
Microsoft-
requires 5 pilots and perhaps a floating head named Zordon.
Microsoft Flight Simulator needs like Geki Ganger 3. They need that integrated.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of strange things that happen in the air, I watched what's it called? Shadow in the Clouds the other day.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is one with Chloe Grace Moretz. I forget what her last name is, but anyway, not that good a movie. Kind of interesting. But it has the most. If you don't want to learn anything about it, don't listen to this. But at one point, she falls out. It mostly takes place in this like plane, and at one point she falls out of the plane, and there's another plane that's been attacking them that is hit, and she falls out of the plane and is gonna like die. But she falls out, and this other plane that's flying under them explodes. So she falls out of the plane. The force of the explosion shoots her back up into the plane. Up into the plane, and she's fine.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know how that
This
is.
awesome.
Free falling object gets hit with a shockwave, you just reverse direction.
Well,
It's
yeah,
amazing.
That's how everything works. Yep,
Anyway, it's
definitely.
it's
That's what
it's
happened
not
to me
that-
last night.
not that good a movie, but it's kind of has some interesting stuff in it.
Right.
Anyway,
Are there zombie Nazis in that movie?
no.
Okay, just kind of seemed like the kind of movie that would have had them at that
No,
point.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. It could.
Huh.
But Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I was talking about that they use, you for this thing, you can be flying around in World War II era fighters. But you may ask, where did they get the models of the World War II fighters? Well, I'll tell you.
Secrets. Tell me how.
They have been working on a project with a bunch of museums to
Okay.
scan like real World War II fighter planes at
From a museum.
sub-millimeter detail, like
Okay.
incredibly high, basically, and essentially archiving them. They're talking about like at some point these planes will no longer exist, like they're
Right.
going to deteriorate.
Yes.
And
But the hard drives they're on will live forever.
and so they're storing them. We can scan the plane down to incredibly small detail, and have that preserved for all time, for historians or whatever. And then they
In case
also are
we-
using it for the game.
In case we ever go through some sort of weird civilization apocalypse and we need to rebuild all of our World War II
Yo.
fighters from scratch to go into a museum again.
It's even better than that. He
What?
said they make them very tiny, which means they can make the tiniest replicate planes that can go into the human body, and we can enact so many war crimes on a person.
We can have like dogfights inside actual dogs.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say that they went and talked to a bunch of friends of Paul Allen, because Paul Allen's really into aviation and
Oh,
stuff.
I was
and
also doing a Mad Libs. My brain was
Yeah.
like spies to get more. I don't know where it was going, but it sounded great.
I like that this took all three of us to get there though. Paul with the whole they scan everything else, you with the whole they make tiny little planes, and I was like, yes, you can have dogfights instead of dogs. I'm like, bing bang boom. That's how comedy
Yeah,
works
yeah.
here on Chill Points.
somehow.
So that's the thing.
So
Not the dogfights part, but the scanning part.
bump said Spike.
He didn't deny the tiny airplanes.
Mhm.
Mine still exists.
It's true. Yeah.
I feel like this falls into the same realm as some of the stuff that Ubisoft did with the Assassin's Creed franchise, especially the Assassin's Creed Origin and Odyssey, where they actually, like, for Assassin's Creed Origin, they literally came up with a new way of digitizing and encoding hieroglyphics and translating hieroglyphics for the game.
Right.
Their models of, like, the pyramid. This is my favorite bit. The model of one of the Great Pyramids.
Mhm.
They had this super accurate model of it, and then they added stuff in the game. You know, they put like a dungeon or like a
Crypt or whatever.
crypt that you
inside.
could go into in the game.
Yeah.
But the outside model is super accurate. And then when the game actually came out, they actually discovered a crypt in that pyramid. I mean, it probably wasn't exactly like they made it in the game, but still,
man, it'd be interesting. They're like, well, there's not.
A hitherto unknown crypt was found in that pyramid.
I mean,
There's room here for one, so we'll just put one in there as if there was one actually in there. What?
we've all read the sci-fi stories, or maybe they're not sci-fi stories, but those types of stories where it turns out that the story that you're making up ends up becoming reality because reality can't lie or something.
Yeah.
It just, once the games get too accurate.
So I got to be careful about the things you say. You're creating a different universe somewhere else, and it's going to be terrible.
Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Xbox has been experimenting and demoing and limited releasing their game streaming, cloud streaming tech. Over the last little while, they've been sort of gradually rolling it out in various ways. But they are, and I believe it is currently available on PC. But this holiday season, they're going to actually make it on Xbox Series X and Xbox One.
Wait, what? They didn't have Game Pass on?
Well, they had Game Pass, but
thing
they didn't have
for?
game streaming.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, that's different?
So congratulations, Xbox owners! You can now play Xbox games on your Xbox.
Yeah, Game Pass is just the thing where you can, like, get a bunch of games. Like, it's just access to games. But the Game Pass, the streaming aspect, is the actual, like, streaming content from the Xbox servers.
I'm gonna if anyone from Xbox is listening, because I know every gaming platform watches our show exclusively. Maybe stop putting the word Xbox in all of your stuff. I can't tell the difference between any of it.
Yeah, call it something else like a Nintendo. That's what all the parents
Don't
want you to
listen to
call it.
him.
That.
Don't listen to him. Just listen to me.
Bought you the green
But
Nintendo.
one of the neat aspects of this, though, is, of course, there's the Xbox One X, the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, which are the most recent ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not arguing with you that they have dumb names. That is a fact.
I was just
It
happy
cannot be
you
argued
got
with.
there. Yeah.
So that's the current generation ones, and there's been all sorts of stuff about, the S version, the lower end version can do certain things, and the X version can do certain things in terms of, like, whether it can do 60 frames, whether it can do 4K, blah blah blah. The Xbox One, which is the previous generation system, obviously is less powerful than both of those. It will be able to cloud stream, so you can run. So, like, an Xbox Series X game that looks super fancy in 4K could be running on Microsoft's servers wherever, and then you can play it on your Xbox One.
Which is nice. That means you don't have to go through the upgrading process just yet if you're not ready to. Which is also
See-
a good hedge if they don't have enough of these consoles ready to sell.
This is why it's very important if you're a console gamer to not buy all three. You can buy up to two, but you want to keep one console as something very far away from you so that when people talk about it and you get very confused, you can maintain the understanding of a non-gamer who's going to need your help to set up one of the other systems one day, and you have some sympathy. But then that's why you should never buy all three. You only get two max. You buy that third one, you're gonna lose that sympathetic understanding of being able to help someone who's just confused in general.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like that.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Good advice. And then I think the last bit of info we've got here is this very silly endeavor. You know, the back in the day, there was that like Twitch plays Pokemon, and then Twitch plays Halo, and all this different stuff. And then there was also the ones where there was like the fish that played games, like all this stuff.
Octopus.
Well,
squid.
this
or
is
something.
basically somebody has done Twitch plays like The Sims, except instead of The Sims, it's his life. It was, and to be clear, this is not somebody just like doing this. This was like a performance piece.
Yeah.
So they made like a set that was like 3 rooms, I think, like a kitchen, like a bedroom, and an outdoors patio area.
Yeah.
And there's apparently something like 40 people like behind the scenes working on this thing,
Running cameras and doing lighting and
and
props
coming up, and they had like reserves of like props and setups and all this stuff. And so then this guy was like being controlled by Twitch chat, like when you know, in the thing, and had like little overlays of the different stats and things, like while, you know, when he's hungry and tired and whatever. So people had to tell him to do stuff.
Yeah, like I feel like when you read the headline for this story, or it's like, a Twitch streamer let people control his life like The Sims, including when he peed, and I'm like, that's not new. Like there are streamers who've done that before, where they're like, oh, vote whether or not I'm going to do this thing or that thing. And I think I've even read stories about streamers who have had their lives dictated by a voting system like that before. But this, when it's like, oh no, I made sets of rooms and we did a thing, and the streamers, the viewers watching gave didn't let me do whatever, so I died from exhaustion. So you watched me die in the middle of doing a push-up. And I'm sorry, that was the wrong quotations. Die doing a push-up. I'm sure that push-up was maybe half real. But and then like weird things like walking into someone, seeing them in bed with the Grim Reaper and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a weird fantasy thing. This is more of this is almost like watching one of those reality TV shows, but you get to like post in what you'd like to have happen next, kind of thing.
Yeah, the audience basically gets to they collaborate on where are we going next, and then it's like, we want to see this, and it's like, oh, I want to see this, and then everyone starts voting on these are the options that we're creating for ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and
that sounds like a lot of fun in the terms of like a performance project, right?
Yeah,
as opposed to, you're not really managing a real person's life. You're kind of managing a character at that point.
I mean, it reminds me actually a little bit of that. You know, I know, Bees, you talked about that like sort of extended like improv thing that used to happen. In Alberta. Or in...
Yeah, they do the Die Nasty Soapathon. Where for 52 hours they play a long form, split up every 2 hours, but they play long form improv. Some actors get to sleep, some actors choose not to. And because you want to see if you can actually go the distance, can you stay up all 52 hours? And I'm sure there's a lot of amphetamines involved in doing that. But probably like 2-minute naps, because you only get about 10 minutes between shows. And it's a blast, because it's all taking place in a black box theater. It's all taking place for this entire weekend. and it is largely like, you know, somebody is sitting up front, the director's sitting up front and leading people through your next scene. This character is now doing this with this character, but what's going to happen to this character?
So it's sort of the same idea, except instead of a director, you have Twitch chat.
Yeah.
And you're more, it's specifically, you know, The Sims or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely more of a performance thing than somebody desperately trying to get views and ruining their life,
Well,
which
the
is
The
great.
Sims is a good wrapper to put on it. Did they wear like did they have like a little green bobbly thing above their head? Because that would have been great too.
No, I don't think so. But
no. Also, they let him pee. Like, that's the thing. Like, at no time did anyone say he can't pee. Like, they let him pee if he wanted to, I guess.
Apparently, there's like a dream sequence that happened at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he goes to the bathroom.
And they're involved like other because there's all these people like behind the scenes, so they also like could get into costumes and do stuff.
Yeah, he wasn't on his own. Other people would come in and do things sometimes, which I think is really neat. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is all of the news that we want to talk about.
Yep. No other news happened. Gamescom was a lie, and the Psychonauts 2 that whoever's playing right now is Dream Sequence.
I mean, yeah. I definitely want to try that out. The fact that Psychonauts 2 came out isn't really news, I guess, but
Not really,
it's still
no.
cool. So yeah, if you as somebody, I saw somebody or a friend say like, wait, I think I actually backed Psychonauts 2 like 4 years ago or whatever. Like, oh yeah, I did. Haha, I have it. So if you have possibly backed Psychonauts 2 and forgotten about it, check your emails. You might have received a download code.
If you see a game show up and you're like, man, that sounds cool, go and check your Steam libraries and your Humble bundles and your Game Passes and your Apple Arcades or whatever, because you might actually already have access to that.
You might have already bought it a while ago and didn't realize it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's getting very good reviews, so that makes me happy. All right, let's talk about what's coming up next. Coming up next is the Friday Night Paper Fight. We're going to be playing some Gladiator. Serge and Nelson and Cameron and Ben Wheeler, I believe, are going to be playing the Gladiator, which, if you don't know, if for whatever reason you're not up on the Gladiator metagame, it's very exciting at the moment because a whole ton of cards just got dumped into Magic Arena that weren't previously in this thing due to the Jumpstart thing.
Oh yeah.
So the whole Gladiator meta has been upheavaled.
Oh no.
So should be pretty neat. And then on Saturday, it's the next Play It Forward. Ben Wheeler is going to be playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yep. I expect him to die at least twice, and no more and no less. So I don't know why I added at least there now that I think about that sentence structure. But this is what happens when I'm allowed to speak live.
And he's going to be playing that 10 till 1 on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So extreme density of Sekiro. Mm-hmm. And then Lord May Live.
All right.
Happening Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. What's going to happen? Something.
God,
nobody knows.
Something's going to happen.
I have to prep.
I know, but I'm not going to tell anyone.
Yeah, that Beej has some stuff to prep.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Sunday, as I said, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Wonder Song on Rhythm Cafe.
maybe we'll finish it. Who knows? I'm gonna have to go remember where I was. It's been a while.
I recall you were having a lot of fun playing that.
Yeah, no, fun was had. I just don't remember where we were. We might not be sad anymore. Maybe we've stopped being sad. I know we were sad at one
Yay.
point, so that could be good.
And then the final episode of Gwent on Is This Your Card? Which the only thing I know about Wheeler's playthrough of Gwent is that apparently he has many large bald men on his team. And they are quite salty with their language.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because I guess that means there's one less episode of Gwent than there was supposed to be, because the Gwent servers went down last weekend.
Oh, really?
He actually played Thronebreaker, which is also a Witcher 3 thing. Apparently it's Gwent with more stuff.
Okay.
Or something.
Interesting.
And then more Sekiro Shadows Die Twice on Monday, followed by the Can't Draw Horses Club, where Corey and friends will be drawing things that may or may not be horses. Dice Friends will probably happen, maybe? I don't know. We'll have to figure something out.
You maybe should figure that out sometime.
Yeah.
Soon.
Gnomes versus Dragons has concluded. It's scary how poorly we did.
Yeah. We thought we were doing great.
Like, we got seriously, like, we were nowhere close to winning the final battle. And that was with, like, flagrant cheating on our part. So the fact that, like, how much you would need to actually, like, do the book in order to, like, win legitimately is terrifying. Also, the page it says to go to when you win is wrong.
Yep, there's that too.
Yep, best book.
The actual ending is somewhere completely different.
Never gonna let you out.
Nope.
And then on Tuesday, of course, it is 9:00, followed by Talking Sim, followed by Let's Nope, where they have, I believe, finished Resident Evil Village. So
good.
There's no more Resident Evils to do. I don't know what they're going to go to next.
They'll have to find something new. Maybe they could play Resident Evil Revelations.
The evil is no longer resident. Evil's been kicked out.
Yeah, it's somewhere else. Anyone else look at like the title Sekiro and just kind of wish that the game was about a guy who collected fancy watches? Because if it kind of looks like Seiko.
I mean, maybe he does also collect watches as well as dying twice.
I definitely see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, a wrong clock is always right twice a day, so maybe that's what the shadows dying twice are.
A clock is always right.
A broken clock, broken watch. I don't know.
No. I just like a clock is always right. Like why not just distill that shit down even further, right? Like.
I mean, I don't want to say a clock's always right, because sometimes they're not.
A clock is always right. Thank you, Beowulf.
Let's thank the people who subscribed during the stream. Like follow through for 14 months. Thank you very much.
And we've got E.L. Coggins for 27 months.
Alchemist Merlin for 77 months. Welcome back.
Jornatin for 14 months. Thank you very much. And 350 bits from Saber Pilot and Pharaoh Bender.
50 of those bits were for my Nadeshko reference.
Yeah, I saw. I was very excited for you getting that in there.
Good job.
Thank you.
Like, somebody's like, you know what? I'll give you
50, I like old anime
I'll give you 50 cents for that. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We will be doing Friday Night Paper Fight in about an hour and a half. But until then, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.